Hi there, this is Jacob Nash, and this is a review of Module 70, Introduction to Therapy. So kind of a short unit, but it's kind of a follow-up of the last one on abnormal behavior. So how can we treat this abnormal behavior? So what is psychotherapy? It's just treatment using psychological techniques. We're going to learn about the different perspectives. Remember the different ones that there are um, that we learned at the beginning of the year. And we're going to see what each one thinks that we should do. Biomedical therapy is just acting directly on a person's physiology. So we're going to talk more about that in a future module, but that's not what we're going to talk about that much right now. Eclectic approach. So if you have an eclectic approach, that means you're combining multiple techniques from multiple perspectives. So psychoanalysis. This is Freud's technique of free associations. So that just means kind of just saying whatever comes to your mind. And two components of this, resistance and transference. Resistance is blocking anxiety-laden material. So if there's some kind of anxiety-provoking thing, then block that. And then transference is transferring feelings to that analyst that you have towards a family member, for example. So if you have hatred towards someone, then maybe you cast that towards instead the analyst. Psychodynamic therapy, pretty similar, but not exactly the same. Which, if you know, it's still, like I said, very similar because Freud was associated with both. But in terms of therapy, he was for the psychoanalysis. But psychodynamic therapy is just on the basis of us responding to unconscious forces and childhood experiences may gain self-insight. So as you can see, speech-focused, unfiltered thoughts led by a client, interpreted by a therapist. So very similar. Insight therapies increase a person's awareness of underlying motives and defenses. Client-centered therapy, this is based on the humanistic approach, Rogers specifically, that uses active listening, which is that the listener must empathetically listen, restate, and clarify, and have an unconditional positive regard, which means accepting non-judgmental attitude necessary and this is just basically focused on trying to get self-acceptance. All right, let's look at some questions. Transference is a component of which therapeutic component? That is psychoanalysis, remember? What is the purpose of psychoanalytic therapy? To allow the patient to gain self-insight. Groups and sensitivity training groups are based on which perspective? Humanistic. Well, it didn't specifically say that, but that should be a little bit obvious if you know what the humanistic perspective is about. Which perspective, or sorry, therapist, a person, paraphrases a client, what the client states as a way of clarifying client's feelings. That was Carl Rogers. Caring, accepting, non-judgmental attitude towards person, that's considered an unconditional positive regard. Which humanistic therapy uses empathy to treat a client? That is client-centered therapy. What type of listening is associated with client-centered therapy? Active listening. A mixture of therapies that's called, oh, that's not correct. Sorry, the answer is not correct on this. That is eclectic treatment. Although multimodality is technically that has the same meaning as eclectic, but that's not what term we use in AP psychology. So that's not correct. Sorry about that. It's eclectic. Which type of therapist would focus on free associations and resistance? That would be psychoanalysis or Freud, which, like I said, he was a psychodynamic. He studied that, but the psychoanalysis is you shouldn't be too worried about like I don't know what's the right way to put this, but if you're a little bit confused about psychoanalysis and psychodynamic therapy, they're essentially almost the same thing. I don't want to say the same thing because they're not necessarily, but the complete comparisons and contrasting between them is not necessary to know for this course. So you just need to know what they are, but more psychoanalysis is a more important thing to know than psychodynamic therapy. So I would just know that. There you go. Thanks for watching.